I would not take a chance to apply for something unless I had all those boxes checked.
Every single one.
Then I would go for the interview and I could be one of the finalists and then the rug would sort of get pulled from
Yeah.
underneath me and who would
Yeah.
get the position was not somebody that had all those boxes checked. I know now that I can't rely on experience.
Hey, this is Coach Faul. I am an ex-CEO, ex-COO, and about to lay out the soul-powered revolution. And you'll win in life by having your soul on fire. Hey everyone, it's Coach Faul. Welcome to another episode of Soul Powered Revolution. And I've got one of the revolutionaries with me right now, Lisa, who is a finance professional, has been a client of ours, and she has a rock star story to tell you. And what Lisa is going to share is something that many, if not all professional women deal with in their career. And Lisa, I'm delighted that you want to share your insights and your experience with coaching. As you know, having gone through the workshop, which you do with other women along the way, you're not alone in what your experience was in your career. And you're a very talented, hardworking finance professional, and something wasn't hitting it for you. So tell us what was going on that you were like, what am I missing here? Start from the beginning of that.
Sure. So I had been getting overlooked for promotions. And I just didn't understand why. I
Yeah.
would look at the job description, I would go through it, I'd be like, this is checking off all the boxes. I'm going to apply for it. I would not take a chance to apply for something unless I had all those boxes checked.
Every single one.
Every single one of
You're
them.
in
I'm like,
finance, and that's
I've
what you
got
got to
this.
do.
Yeah, I've got it. I've got this in the bag, right?
Yeah.
Then I would go for the interview and thought I had it, really thought I had it. And I could be the finalist, one of the finalists. And most of the time I was.
Mm-hmm.
And then, right, the rug would sort of get pulled from
Yeah.
underneath me. And who would get the position was not somebody that had all those boxes checked.
That's
So,
confusing.
yeah, it is confusing. And you wonder, like, is it me? Am I doing something wrong? You
Mm-hmm.
know, you
Mm-hmm.
blame it on yourself.
Yes,
Like,
sure.
did I not speak properly? Did I not convey myself the way,
Right.
that was expected?
Right.
And so I had done several interviews for people. Interviewing people was kind of my thing. People would love it. They'd want to work for me. I would do great giving people interviews, and I delivered very well in interviews, but it
Yeah.
just, what's this problem that I'm having?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And when you went through basically understanding what we do in our soul powered career coaching, and the promise really is that we want to help you land your dream job. And the method that I use, our coaching team uses, is to help you really get to know yourself on the inside so we can start there with the foundations of who you are. What were some of the insights that you uncovered or found out that were helpful to you when you began coaching with us?
Sure. So, I would get offered roles, and they would always be lateral.
Mm-hmm.
And I figured out that the role, what I would do is I would automatically just jump into it and say, oh yes, I'll do that for you.
Uh-huh.
I was kind of the doer. Okay.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so it wasn't necessarily what was best for me. It was what was best for the person who's asking me to do this role.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my fear, I was making sort of a fear-based decision. It was like I felt like if I don't do this, I'm not being a team player.
Yes.
I'm missing, I could be missing a supposed opportunity that would come down in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm just aiming to please.
Yeah. So you were being moved around the organization by people who knew you had great skill sets, but you were being moved to what was satisfying for them and not advancing your career.
100%. That's what was
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so as we went into the soul work and started to excavate the best parts of you, what did you realize was in there that you weren't using or you weren't aware of? What's inside Lisa that came alive?
Well, thinking about myself internally. One of the things that really helped me was it's really important to journal and talk about, what's what's there to brag about, right? To sort of build up your confidence, right? What are
Mhm.
things that have are you grateful for? To
Yes.
kind of shift you out of that negative poor me victim
Mhm.
and think
Mhm.
about what can I do to make things better, not to reflect on the past, more to reflect on right now.
Yeah.
So shifting my focus from lacking as instead of in and what's working, right? What
Mhm.
is exactly working? Reduce like anxiety about imposter syndrome, right?
Mhm.
And it really the journaling really helped me to create, some kind of evidence of self-doubt. So, what am I doubting myself about, and how
Mhm.
can I, put myself in a better position to
Right.
improve my brand,
Yeah.
you
And
know?
yeah, and when we say brand, I think we think of sort of like this packaging, but having coached you, I know that this work was deeply centering you.
Yeah.
And I believe, please elaborate, that your relationship with your boss began to shift
Yes.
because you began to believe in yourself in a new way, in an enhanced way. What were some of the early wins that you had because of the shifts that you were making?
Yeah, I would say the early wins were that I believed in myself and I wasn't trying to necessarily prove it.
Mhm.
Because when you're looking externally for validation,
Mhm.
that is a recipe for disaster.
Right.
When you have and you know on your own that you are successful and you do a great job and you're delivering, you know that. You don't need somebody else to tell you that.
Right.
So once you have that embodied in you, those were wins that I came across a lot more confident and I guess a lot less emotional. So I
Aha.
wasn't doing that self-talk in
Yeah.
that much, and most men and women, but most men appreciate a less emotional approach,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
you just straightforward and communicate in a way that everybody can appreciate. Take the emotion away
Yeah.
and just focus on
Yeah.
you're on point.
Right. Right. Exactly. And I think, as you know, in watching other women through the process as you were going through your 12-week journey, we get a little extra emotional stuff going on because we are coming from this inadequacy feeling.
Yeah.
Like, and it just keeps the nervous system on high alert. We're not
Hmm.
sure exactly if we're valuable as much as we might think we are. And then we're like, well, I'm not even being paid what I should be paid because of all the stuff I've done. It's like this weird dance of I'm more on guard slash I'm more frustrated and emotional because I'm not getting where I want to go and I don't know how to get there. And
Hmm.
why is this not happening for me? You told me that the coaching helped not only bring you out from the inside, not have to check all the boxes, not have other people define your worth. And I know one of the things that you have really excelled at is your communication.
Oh yeah, right.
And as you
Communication.
as you navigate getting, more visibility in your brand and your organization, how has the communication skills and confidence that you have garnered, how has that helped you navigate your success arc, shall we say?
It actually catapulted me into bringing forth my experience without having to go into grave detail. And hear what I mean by that. This program helped me to say, introduce yourself, but like tell me about yourself
Mm-hmm.
without going into too much detail.
Mm-hmm.
And so that allowed me to kind of put in the experience I had. And the reason I'm saying this is because I had a new boss, didn't know anything about me, came in, into this area not understanding exactly what we were doing. And I had to kind of show what I could do, but in a way to introduce myself. So, you
Yeah.
know, this is what I do, and this is what I do, and this is. See, I'm stalling here. So what I mean by that is, okay, let me go back. So the communication portion was most valuable to me. And the reason it was most valuable to me because it helped me realize that I may have been over communicating.
Ah, over communicating.
Yeah. And it causes you to see, I'm over communicating. All right, let's go back. I'm going to
I'm
say
just,
that
I'm just,
again.
I'm just making little notations on the video, so you're fine. You're totally fine.
Right. Over
What do you
communicating.
want to say here? And
Yeah.
we
What I
can
want to
back
say
it. Yeah,
here is
yeah.
when you over communicate, you lose your audience.
Aha.
When you
Right.
lose your audience, why bother speaking? Right? You've
Mm-hmm.
lost your audience. You
Yeah.
lost your cause. You lost exactly the point that you want to make.
Yes. And as you're doing that, subconsciously that you're going off track, and then you get more nervous and you start over communicating more because you're trying to get yourself back on track.
Totally.
And here's the interesting thing. Your level of self-awareness is so tuned in. Not that you're being hyper vigilant and la 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 la, but
Yeah,
your alignment with your soul and your truth is so there that little alterations you go self-correct, self-correct, like you're self-correcting very rapidly, so you're not going down rabbit holes and leaving people like that.
right. Exactly.
What's it like to live life knowing what your alignment feels like and being able to self-correct a lot earlier in almost anything? I know you've gone through a significant personal crisis, and I'm guessing that helped with that also.
It did. It absolutely did. And even communicating under very volatile situations
Uh-huh.
and unexpected, just dialing back and saying, okay, let's not go off the cliff here. Let's,
Mm-hmm.
compose ourselves, stop, and
Mm-hmm.
give yourself a break, right? You have to
Yeah.
be able to take a break and stop and say, okay, what is it that I want to say here?
Yeah.
And not to go off course and then create a situation that will just make it worse.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
And as a finance professional, when you spend all day in numbers,
Hmm.
you're amplifying that part of your brain. And it makes sense that the communication pieces don't get as developed. And then when you do need to communicate, that stuff's just not quite there. And when you're in chronic stress mode of how come I'm not getting promotions, feeling like you have to be a perfect candidate, that other people with less qualifications, it's confusing and you're sort of going around. I'm not saying that this is totally you, but normal human in that scenario, a little pissed off energy going on.
Oh yeah, you get resentment,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
You get resentment, you go into victim mode,
Yep.
and then that's just not helping.
No. No.
Right?
And then you're quick to respond in that direction.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not necessarily, it might be something you're thinking, but it's not something you want to say or verbalize.
Yeah.
And this program really helped me think differently, more from a manager's position than it is from me as the employee, I guess I would say.
Uh-huh.
So so what is it that they're looking for?
Yes.
That's, you touched a lot on what they're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Not to sabotage yourself.
Yes. Yeah. And when you come from the perspective of what your boss or colleagues or other folks that you're working with, and you work in a big organization with lots of stakeholders, you do have to think from their perspective when you share information. Because if you share it from your perspective, again, that leads to that over talking, over sharing, etc. And you're trying to like prove yourself, like, look, aren't I great? Aren't I awesome? This is all the stuff I had to do to dig that out. And they're like, just tell us the number, Lisa. So that, I mean, I can just experiencing you right now. I know that going through the coaching and really diving in and leaning into the best version of Lisa, that you're more centered, that you're more like, you're just more with it in yourself.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It built up a lot of the confidence. It was nice to be in groups so you could hear others, and then you could hear feedback about, what they were thinking,
Mhm.
and then there's a lot of things that apply to you,
Yeah.
right? So it's
Yeah.
nice to have that kind of sisterhood.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. So when you're on the call for a couple of hours, waiting your turn, getting your coaching, all the stuff before and after your turn, you're like going, taking notes, because every woman's experience is pretty much the same.
yeah.
Obviously, the details are different. When you were getting coached, what did you learn about the process of actually getting coached?
I learned that it can be eye opening. So, and one of the coaches that I worked with, she was probably the hardest on me. And yeah, I'm sure you know who that one is.
Absolutely.
But she was the hardest on me, but I learned the most from her.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be willing to accept feedback, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then run with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's taking the time to review and go back and say, all right, is this, yeah, I sound like a crazy person right now. I need to dial it back. And, it just brings so much self-awareness.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of women who we coach talk about, for the first time in a long time, feeling comfortable revealing things or being vulnerable with other people. I call it a sacred circle that we create when we coach. What were some of your aha moments just in you having the experience of leaning in that type of environment?
Well, I learned a lot about being vulnerable, and I'm going to give you a story if that's
Okay.
okay.
Yeah.
So I had done so my father got quickly sick,
Mhm.
and it was on the same day that I was scheduled for this interview that I had been waiting months for.
Uh-huh.
So I went through the interview, and I wasn't feeling it. I just felt like I didn't do as good. I wasn't on my game. I should have rescheduled it, and I didn't, because I've been waiting so long, right? I just
Mhm.
wanted to go do this interview. So I was so excited about it.
Yeah.
So after the interview took place, I had to rush to the hospital and go check on my father. And after that, about 2 days later, I reached out to the hiring manager and I said, I'd really like to catch up with you and have a little follow up. There was a lot going on that day. And so, can we follow up? So, there was a couple of questions he asked me that I felt like I really didn't answer well.
Mhm.
So, I took some time and gathered my thoughts when I was in a better place, and put put together a whole presentation. And what the question was what is your 30, 60, and 90-day plan if you got this position?
Uh-huh.
And I felt like I flailed on that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I went back, I went through it, I put down a really thoughtful, well put together presentation,
Mm-hmm.
had a follow up call, had a lovely discussion about it, and really showed this is how I want to
Yeah.
perceive myself, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I appreciated him for the time. And what he came back to me was, I appreciate that you had become vulnerable.
Yeah.
That meant a lot
Yeah.
because, whether I get the position or not, it's kind of like, wow, that is not something I would have done.
Right.
Ever in my life would I have ever done
Yeah.
it? I would have said, I didn't do well. Goodbye, Irene, and
Yeah.
go on to the
Yeah.
next thing.
Yeah. And
Yep.
and meanwhile, those type of experiences gnaw at us.
Oh my gosh, I would have been guilty about this for forever, you know?
And
And it was like,
torn
that's the
because you had a
reason
good
why,
reason, because your dad and all, yeah, these are the perfect moments for having the courage to be vulnerable, because life does hand us difficult, tricky situations when we have an obligation to do something else.
Oh yeah. Hmm.
And being able to navigate life's complexity like a freaking badass like that,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's got to feel like $1 million.
It did. It did.
Yeah.
It really felt like $1 million. And that's when I felt like I actually stepped into, okay, this is, you just have to be real. Okay.
Hmm.
We're not being phony. We're just being
Hmm.
real. We all
Yeah.
have lives
Yeah.
and we all, want to do the right thing for the
Yeah.
most part. Everybody wants to do the right
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. I'm going to describe something for those who are listening. They may not understand this, but I know you do. And I want you to elaborate on this from your perspective. When you're out of alignment, when you're in stress mode, feeling bad about yourself, feeling passed over, your inner light is like a 10-watt bulb. It's sort
Mhm.
of barely there, pilot light. That causes any human being not to be thriving and not to ask questions, be curious, be courageous, share things, blah, blah, blah. And you mentioned earlier coming from fear mode and needing to check all the boxes for any type of promotion or job opportunity. And it's because you're like coming from this size of a bulb.
Mhm.
When you do the soul work that we introduce you to, and you mentioned earlier the gratitudes and the brags, and we help you take your nervous system down through the meditation practices and that sort of thing. All through day by day, week by week, you're turning that 10-watt bulb up to 20 watts, and then 30, and then 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, whatever the case may be. And now you're shining bright.
Mhm.
With that type of illumination, a human being can have more powerful conversations. She can be vulnerable because she's not using everything she has to be vulnerable. You've got like extra when you're shining that bright. And people will notice you just by being you because you're now shining.
Right.
And you don't have to be drawing from an empty cup all the time. What has been the most profound aspect of that for you that you've experienced that has altered, changed, bettered your life? What's been the biggest piece of that for you?
Well, as you spoke about, it's kind of like your light is small, right? I kind of envision it like not getting caught up in the chaos. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like
Yeah.
I've heard somebody express this before, and it's kind of like this. If we rise above, let's say we in a plane. When you're in a plane and you're up high, your vibration is high,
Mhm.
your excitement is high, you're in a good place, right?
Mhm.
You're up above everything. And everything down below when you're in a plane looks
Yeah.
small,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And that's the place where you can get where
Yeah.
you're going to be successful.
Yeah.
If you're down with everybody else on the streets, fighting traffic,
Yeah.
doing all that sort of
Yeah.
thing,
Literally. Right. Yeah.
right? Your light is low, and then you're miserable, right?
Yeah.
So it's to get yourself to that point, to rise above,
Mm-hmm.
is not just rising above because, just for yourself. It's rising above all the chaos that's going on,
Yeah.
and putting all that energy towards yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so good.
Yeah.
That's so, so good. And so when something happens at work, a little disruption, a coworker, a colleague, some little drama, you're not sucked into the undertow. You're sort of like, okay, it'll
Yep.
sort itself out. Or you know what? Maybe I should let Ted know da 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 da, just so we can like be on the same page. Like you're able to come from a place of being calm under pressure.
Yes.
You're able to think better,
Mhm.
problem solve better. I know you've helped your company save or make or bring in millions of dollars in the work that you do.
Do.
And when we highlight this in the workshop, it's another one of those, oh my gosh, look at how valuable I've been to the organization.
Hmm.
And and knowing that truth inside, how have you been able to show up differently in meetings and just talking with your boss? Like knowing what you bring.
Yeah, I have no problem voicing it, you know,
Yeah.
because before I would just say, well, they should know, right?
Right. Yep.
Well, you know what? Not necessarily. So
Mhm.
I bring it up,
Mhm.
and I'm sure I'm promoting myself,
Yes.
and that's not something I would have done before.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. You were taught as young girls, just keep your head down, do
Hmm.
good work, and it'll pay off.
Please, everybody. Yep.
Right. Yeah, that doesn't work. That doesn't work.
No.
What's in store for you now? What do you see on the horizon for you now that you have a higher sense of self, a greater sense of your worth? You're courageous. You've learned what it's like to be vulnerable and win with humans, like it's a human win to be vulnerable, the way that you expressed a few times.
Mhm.
What's in store now? Where you headed? What's your future looking like?
Well, I'm definitely looking outside and inside for
Mhm.
opportunities, right?
Mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
looking for opportunities where I can shine, and making sure that whomever I'm going to go work for, or whatever position I'm going to take, is going to be aligned with what's important to me.
Yes.
And I have no qualms about saying no,
Yeah.
right? If it doesn't align, it's say no.
Yeah.
An example of that was I had a recruiter reach out to me for a position at a company, and it was a high level position. The position looked great. However, the company values didn't.
Mm.
It was not aligned with something I would want to help.
Mhm. Gotcha.
So, I was very honest to the recruiter. I went back to them and said, thank you so much for reaching out to me. I appreciate that. If you
Mhm.
see something else, by all means, reach
Mhm.
out to me. However, this particular company is not something I'm aligned with and my core values. And, I just moved from there.
Yeah.
Other, if I would have been in a different situation where I'm desperate and I'm kind of acting on that low vibration,
Yeah.
right? And I'm in the chaos, I probably would have said, oh, I'm gonna apply for it,
It would have been, "Please like me, please like
Yeah,
me."
please like me to
Yeah.
take me in.
Yeah.
I qualify.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
it's really life is so much different when you live from your worthiness and your truth rather than from people pleasing and fear. I just love talking with you. Now, people who are watching this or listening to this podcast, they didn't know you beforehand. And I have the absolute pleasure from a human perspective to know how bright your bulb is now
Oh, thank
and
you.
how natural it is that you're shining and you're able to express yourself and parlay your worth into that next role. And you have the delightful situation to be choosy and allow yourself to do it for you. And
Yeah.
that's fantastic. That is
Yeah.
fantastic.
And I appreciate everything that your program does. I mean, it's just been really inspirational. It's you're putting together a community that really wants to help each other. We
Yes.
we all want to help each other.
Mm-hmm.
And we all understand, this is how the world is working right now. And it's been so helpful to have some exposure to that and to be around a group of people that are
Mm-hmm.
aligned, right? With
Yes.
like-minded people that
Yes.
want all the same things.
Yes.
So
And they're
it's just been wonderful.
not afraid of talking about success,
Yeah,
not having
right.
to be bashful about it.
Hmm.
It's an important part of your soul's expression in life.
Yeah, and you see people, I mean, get great jobs that they've been looking for, and it's just been really wonderful to see it.
Yeah.
And I feel like this program has really helped me get my power back.
Mm, yeah. I know that in order to be in our 12-week program, you had to make a significant decision for yourself.
Oh yeah.
What would you say to someone, a woman who was in that same exact situation, about that decision to invest in herself and take a leap of faith that
Hmm.
we've got what she needs,
Yep.
and that you're able to do the work? I mean, I think that those are some of the things that come into play. What would you say to that woman as her sister?
Well, from my experience, I've discovered that, making fear-based decisions is not going to help you. Really taking lateral moves to be a team player, it just doesn't, it's only benefiting others, and it's really stalling your growth. It doesn't, the resume, I'm sorry, that not the resume, but the job description doesn't have to be perfect, right? Just if you can grab some things in there or requirements that fit you and align with what you want to do, not just what you've done, but what you'd like to do, then you
Hmm.
should go for it. You know, the transformation for me really began when I learned to trust my instincts
Hmm.
and over others' agendas.
Mm,
Like, what are
yeah.
they asking me to do this for, and is this going to help me or is this not going to
Yeah.
help me?
Hmm.
And make some decisions. Really, the daily journaling has helped me and to build up my confidence and put me more in a higher vibration and to in a positive look at my internal self.
Yeah.
And it's okay to say no, and you don't have to over explain it. you know one of the questions I got was, do you want to go back to where you were? You know, I had shifted departments and said, want to go back to where immediately I said, absolutely not. There's no growth there for me.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
would have never said that before this program. I would
Yeah.
have said, oh, yeah, sure. And
Hmm.
I would have just gone along and done the same old thing.
Right.
Right.
Right. When you were at the decision of whether to get the coaching or not get the coaching, what was the thing that you had to, I don't know, click on in yourself to make that decision to move forward with it?
I was sort of at an impasse. I
Mm,
was like, I just needed an awakening, and I felt like this program could give that to me.
mm-hmm.
I really liked the soul perspective
Yeah.
and going internally because I think I've tried everything else.
Mm-hmm.
This has to work,
Yeah.
right? I got to be where am I missing the mark?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so that's when I heard you talking. I actually heard you talking on Instagram,
Mm,
and you were speaking to me. It felt like as you were
mm-hmm.
speaking to a lot of women who apparently were in the same situation I was.
Yes.
It really resonated with me, and I said, this program is something that I got to invest in myself
Mm-hmm.
and invest in my career, myself and my career, my professional career going forward. And
Mm,
now's the time to do it.
yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm super glad that you made the decision because, again, how shiny and bright you are is just really inspiring. And everyone watching this, might be thinking, well, she must have always been this wonderful, beautiful, shiny, bright self. The corporate world had kicked your ass a few times
Oh, I
and brought you to a place where you didn't feel like you were you. And I'm delighted with who you are now. I want to bless the rest of your journey. And you stay in the sisterhood, you stay a part of the community, and really, it's just delightful. Thank you for sharing your story, Lisa. Thank you for sharing your journey, your ups and downs, and who you've become is just, it's making the world better. Just by
thank
you
you.
being this version of you, it's just great.
Thank you so much. Thank you for all you've done and for putting this program together. It's so meaningful, and any woman that joins it is, I'm sure, going to have the same experience, and it's just a great thing for any woman to just really learn about themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, you've done a great job with it. So bravo.
Thank you.
Folks, if you want to shine like Lisa has, it's very super simple. It starts with a clarity call. We help unpack what's not working and where you want to go and what's possible for you. And if we believe that we can help you, we may have the same invitation we gave Lisa to come on in and get the coaching going and learn how to shine bright and take your career seriously and be the CEO of it. And when you're in charge of your career and your life, it just life is so much brighter and better. So again, Lisa, thank you for sharing your journey. And folks, it's mofall.com/talk. Plain and simple. mofall.com/talk. Everything that women face in the corporate world, in life actually, can be counterattacked, counteropposed by a woman's powerful internal sense of being. And I call that your soul power. I want to help more women understand their soul power, and I want to create a soul-powered revolution. This is Coach Mo, mofall.com.